Welcome back to Be More, where we inspire you to be a little bit more of every role within the Salesforce ecosystem. For today's session, we are talking about why it's important to focus on mental health and illness with Be More Mental Health. We're going to explore what it means to kind of embody this topic in your day-to-day working life and how it has a Salesforce flavored spin on top of it as well. So I'm joined today by Katie. So Katie, are you able to introduce yourself for our audience, please?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. My name's Katie Villanueva. I am a Salesforce administrator at 10K. I'm also the mental health and illness user group leader for the mental health and illness user group.
Okay. Awesome. Well, it's great to have you on today, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. So we're going to be talking about your role in today's session, and I guess your role for the purposes of this episode is ultimately the mental health and illness user group. So if you could introduce that role for us, really, what does the user group do? Where does it help? And ultimately, what it's set out to achieve?
Sure. The user group is a very special user group. We have come together um, by connecting on this level in an area that is not always open, safe, or available to trailblazers in the Salesforce ecosystem about mental health and mental illness. So I found that there were a lot of us that want to talk about these things. Um, and some of us relate it to, and also how to work with mental health struggles or mental
Mm.
illness issues in the workplace too. So I created this group so that we can not only end the stigma around it to make it easier to talk about, particularly in our workplaces, but I want to end the stigma. I want to bring education and resources to the Trailblazer community about places to go when they're in need of help or um, how to learn about either your own diagnosis or particularly someone close to you in your life's diagnosis, and also share stories because there's a little bit of a tagline that in the group that we say trailblazers are never alone. We can connect more in a meaningful way on a level that we didn't expect if we're brave enough to open up to each other about this stuff. And this space creates, or this user group creates that space for us to do just that.
Okay, awesome. Well, it sounds like it's a really important user group and it's playing a really important role as somebody who tries to be in tune with my own mental health. I can certainly relate to the importance of that and kind of keeping it in check. And it's great that a user group exists for that forum. So if you're thinking about the user group and ultimately thinking about the type of content really that you cover, what type of sessions can people expect if they attend?
Yeah. It's, I wouldn't say it's all over the board. It's some, we've had our first session was great. It, uh, it was well attended. There was a lot of warm welcome from the community for it. We had a therapist. Our first session, we actually
Oh,
had a
wow.
therapist come on, and it took place after Thanksgiving, the U.S. Thanksgiving,
Hmm.
and before the holidays, and it was themed "It's okay to not be okay"
Yeah.
during the holidays because there's that dark side of the holidays that people aren't sure how to navigate or speak up about, the stress, or holidays aren't so happy for a lot of people because it serves as reminders or particularly hard time in their life to do some of the things. But there's this forced joyfulness around it that
Yeah.
everyone feels like they have to meet this bar, this standard.
Mm.
And it's really stressful. And we had a therapist lead a discussion about how to manage those things during that time. and it was really great. Then we've had people come on about goal setting and how
Mm.
to not just set your goals, but how to keep a healthy frame of mind while working towards your goals, because we can beat ourselves up and
Yep.
internalize that. And that work and that, you know, we were able to connect on goals, particularly in the Salesforce community. Like, I want to receive this certification, or I want this kind of job, or whatever. Like, so we were able to come together over common goals that we would
Yep.
share in this industry. And then we've had just recently we had John Sawyer's on, and he was talking about uh, how to understand your emotional API. He
Hmm.
broke down your feelings into APIs and made this huge metaphor that could maybe relate to a way that people don't know how to express how their feelings, but make sense of things that they know and understand and probably love, because
Yeah.
I love everything that I do in Salesforce, and I'm just assuming everybody does too. That's why we do it. So that was a really cool conversation. I have brought NAMI, which is the National Alliance of Mental Illness, to come and talk
Mhm.
about their services to the community. So I just bring anybody who wants to share their stories and just open up. We had a panel about ADD, and that was really well received. Though it's not a
Mhm.
mental illness, it really impacts people's mental health and their well-being, and how they manage the workplace. And people came and uh, had big conversations about, what do I do in this situation when I'm at work, or what do I do in this situation, within my own family or whatever. So it all does relate back to Salesforce, because we're all connected through Salesforce, and the
Yeah.
conversation seems to find its way back to Salesforce, or applicable to our Trailblazer community. And it just takes it a step further to this personal space. And the that's just the sessions I like to bring. It doesn't have to be one thing or another. It's an eclectic collection of different types of conversations that just need to be had.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay, awesome. And I think that's really important to open the conversation and ultimately talk about topics that perhaps people have common ground about and put a
Yeah.
little Salesforce flavor on it as well, right?
Forgot to mention the favoriteest ones that people love
Yeah.
to go to is the coloring sessions.
Oh, okay.
So at TDX and at Dreamforce, and I
Hmm.
applied for TDX this year, we had a meetup in person. Being that it's a virtual group, it's an in-person meetup where we color, and we color the Salesforce coloring books. And it's a place to decompress and step away from the conference, have some
Mm.
quiet time. Maybe your social batteries are drained,
Yeah.
or maybe you just need to take a break, or people feel self-conscious at the conferences too, and that's kind of been discussed out in the
Mm.
Twitter spheres. and
Yeah.
and so this is a place to create friendships and conversations, or a place to just have a space at a table and color and decompress. So it's something we do it at Witness Success as well, here in the States, where we color. We had a big poster and everybody contributed. It was a group effort, and it's beautiful.
Amazing. Yeah, I've got a coloring book somewhere and some pencils, and I certainly relate to kind of how therapeutic it can be, and almost like taking yourself out of the situation that you're in. You just kind of put yourself almost in, like in that coloring book, right? That's where your brain is at. You focus on that, and ultimately it is therapeutic. It does help you calm down. So I think the value of that is kind of perhaps a little bit underestimated. And I can certainly also relate to like the big Salesforce events, like your emotional batteries, social batteries, whatever you want to call them, being drained. Like last time I was at Dreamforce, I kind of had to just take myself for a walk and listen to some music and kind of recharge a little bit, you know?
Mhm.
I should have really probably done some coloring, but I'll definitely look out for that next time. Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'll be there.
Okay. Awesome. So thinking about this as something for people to kind of learn more about and kind of make sure, as I say, they kind of keep an eye on their mental wellness, really. Is there any kind of advice that you would give for somebody who's maybe thinking about attending the group, but maybe kind of hasn't made the step just yet? Is
Yeah.
there anything kind of there that you would would kind of share to encourage them to do join and participate?
Sure. Well, for any, I would just put it out there. If anybody wanted to talk to me about it, confidentially, privately, you can
Mm,
always DM me, whether it be on LinkedIn or Twitter, or in the community. And I'd be
yeah,
happy to answer any questions or just make them feel at ease if they, have concerns. But it's I can only express how safe of a space it is. It's been well received. People are being respectful of each other and each other what anybody feels to share, they want to share. Some people are on camera, some people aren't.
yeah,
It's a welcoming space, and I'm really proud of the respect the community has shown it when we do meet.
yeah,
So, I can only assure you that it's a safe space.
yeah.
But
Awesome.
yeah, happy to talk to anybody that they want to privately though about it.
Yeah, and you always run your events virtually as well, so anybody can dial in from around the world, right?
Mhm. Yep, it's all virtual.
Okay, awesome. Well, that's great. You certainly got a wide audience there as Salesforce professionals and anybody kind of wanting to learn more about mental health and illness. So that's great. So kind of flipping the questions a little bit on their head, but thinking about somebody that's kind of aware of their own mental health or mental illness, are there any tips or advice that you would give to those looking to kind of keep on track of your mental health and illness just to make sure that things like don't get too overwhelming? Are there any kind of techniques or things that you've learned that have worked for you?
Yeah. Well, my go-to is, a healthy lifestyle. Is you treat your body well, and you're treating your mind as well. So I work out regularly. I eat clean meals. I've actually lowered my alcohol intake, which alcohol is a depressant. I
Hmm.
still enjoy myself from time to time, but I've definitely cut back, and I feel better too. And doing those things and taking care of my body makes me more able to cope with stress, and it doesn't consume me. The stress doesn't consume me
Mm,
because I'm more equipped to handle it because I'm getting good sleep. I'm recharging. So definitely taking care of your body is the best way for me to take care of my own mental health. I also would suggest therapy, whether not only when you feel like you need it, but every once in a while, it's like I call it a tune up. You go and get your car
yeah,
checked out, even though it's doing fine, you still go get it checked out, make sure everything's working. I go see a therapist and just do a check-in and make sure, you know, somebody's checking in on me for sure,
yeah,
but also for me to check in with myself, because things can get past us or we're not processing everything that we probably could or should because we live in a very fast on the go lifestyle
yeah,
now. It's technology and kids maybe.
yeah,
But, um but yeah, so, those are definitely two big ones that I would do to maintain a good mental, health atmosphere for yourself, lifestyle, because it is a lifestyle. It's not
hmm,
something that you just say you're gonna do, it's a lifestyle, um, and it just ends up being habit at some point.
yeah. Okay. Awesome. And I think it's great kind of reflecting a little bit on what you said there about kind of almost having that check in with your therapist to kind of check in with almost yourself really and your feelings and kind of perhaps dig into areas with the therapist if things are getting too much or problems are occurring that you don't really notice, right? Do you think that's part of the motivation there?
Oh, for sure. I mean, how many times have we like, you know what the saying, cry over spilled milk, and you're like,
Yeah.
why is this happening? It's because you have all this stuff in you that you haven't processed or let out because we're
Mm,
busy, and things were okay and things are okay. And just because you have this moment doesn't mean we're going through something or it's an episode, which is really scary for people like me
mm,
are bipolar and have have episodes, but you can still have a bad day and it doesn't have to be the end of the world. But those therapists help you through those bad days, or they help you have less as many bad days. They have fewer bad days because you
yeah.
are processing your days, and stuff like that. So I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's great.
Yeah.
And I think kind of almost on the subject of almost letting it out, like something that I don't tell many people that I'm now going to share here is like sometimes if I need to cry, I will encourage myself to cry. I think that like in terms of letting it out, for some reason I have this instinct, and I'm sure other people have an instinct as well if they want to cry to stop themselves from crying, right? I think for me, I've learned it's a great outlet to like if it comes, if the urge happens, to let it out because otherwise I'm kind of you kind of push it back in, right? And kind of keep it underneath. What do you think about that?
Oh, I think I 100% agree. And it's like my grandma always said, better out than in.
Yeah.
It just eats you up on the inside if you don't
Yeah.
let it. It has nowhere to go and it'll turn on you and it'll be a bigger deal than what it actually is by the time it does come out. So handle it in the moment. You're right. Like I want to make like I can't make myself cry, but I'll go watch a movie and I'll catch my feelings in the movie and
Mm,
I'll be, the movie will pull the feelings out of me or whatever
yeah.
if I need that release or if I need to work out. That is another way of releasing where maybe I'm not crying. I won't feel like crying afterwards because I got those endorphins and I healed my mind
Mhm.
from those endorphins from that moment. But I did something about it. Regardless, to your point, I did something about it. I recognized those feelings and I did something. Um, and paid attention to them. So, however anybody feels they need to do it, go do
Yeah.
it. Don't ignore it. Don't push it down. Don't push it away because it's just going to eat you up later.
Yeah. And I think that that's a good point as well, because ultimately different things work for different people. Like just because something works for me doesn't mean it's going to work for you and
Yeah.
vice versa, right? Everybody's different and sometimes through trial and error, you kind of have to work out what's the right way, right?
And this is the conversations that we have in the user group sometimes at the end of Q and A's. Like people bring what they do to the table and we learn from each other. And I just love that the group does that or has the space to do that for people to connect.
Yeah, I think that's super important because ultimately you might share something that somebody else will then go on to practice or make sure that they do. And that could really help and that can make a big difference, right? So I think that's super valuable and important. So, kind of thinking about your own journey a little bit now, but the user group has been running for a couple of years now, right?
One
One? Okay.
Well, yeah, we had our anniversary in November and we're going towards our second, and it's just had a bigger impact than I could have imagined. So I'm really proud of our 1 year
Yeah.
and looking forward to many more.
Okay. Awesome. Well, looking forward to all the virtual cake as well. But for all of the upcoming anniversaries and celebrations, that's great. So thinking about your journey, appreciate it's been a little bit short so far, but if you were to do something again, is there anything you would change or do differently, thinking about how things have developed and what's happened?
So the user group has only been around for 1 year, but my push for advocacy within the community has been going on for um, 2 years or more, um, maybe going on three. Um, so it's new, but it's not new. And I think I wouldn't have changed anything looking back. Everything happened organically. And for the folks that don't know, and maybe I should have put this in my intro, but this all started from a session that I had at my local user group. I didn't know anything about the Trailblazer community, and it was a new group, and we needed content, and they asked somebody to speak. And I was just going to talk about how much I love Salesforce.
Yeah.
I know it would have been
You'll
a
do.
really
Yeah.
boring session for so many people. But when I sat down to write that session and talk and think about what I was going to say, I dove deep, a lot deeper than I expected. And I said, why do I like Salesforce so much? What attracts me to it? And what I came up with was that Salesforce helps me with my bipolar disorder. And I was able to categorize it um, with an acronym, CRM. The CRM helps me manage my relationships with my bipolar disorder. And
Mm,
that stands for courage, respect, and mindfulness. Courage to speak up and say how I'm feeling in moments, because there's a lot of times I don't understand what I'm feeling.
yeah.
I need help processing things. I need like guardrails. Respect, because I didn't respect myself for a long time. I didn't understand what was happening to me. I didn't understand why things were so hard emotionally. My emotions were going unchecked, and I struggled with a lot of depression and anxiety. And I was initially diagnosed with depression and anxiety disorder, but the medications for it and the therapy wasn't working. So I thought that that was my life, that I'm going to have to live like this for a very long time. And that turned inward. And I was caught in a cycle of self harm for upwards of 10 years. And it even came down to where I battled suicidal thoughts. And I talk about this in my session. But after a particular event, I where I was deciding whether I was going to attempt suicide or not, I decided that I actually didn't want that for myself. And there was a will to live in me, deep down,
Hmm.
that I couldn't recognize at the time, but I discovered it. And that's when I decided I was going to respect myself. And then that helped me go seek out help. And I got the right kind of help, and I got the right diagnosis, and I got the right kind of medication. But I still needed to be more mindful of the situations I was putting myself in, how I was processing things,
Yeah.
who I was with, and how I lived my life. Henceforth, the exercise and the food, taking care of
Yeah.
myself, eating. And when I brought this session, it got accepted to a couple different conferences and eventually Dreamforce. And I spoke about this, and I found that a lot of people were like me. And I saw the community amongst all these people, that there is a community here. And Salesforce saw a recording of my session, and the community team wanted to work with me in building this user group up, because that was my request. I said, there's enough content here, there's enough backing for us to do
Hmm.
something.
Yeah.
Um, so how do we do this? And they were open and willing to work with me on it. And so it just naturally happened. And then I have Gilda, the swag fairy marketing magic genius behind me,
Yeah.
who gave us a hashtag and said we should really hashtag this and logo. And that logo is kind of a banner that we've all started to come around, and
Mm,
and it's something that represents us. And so we found an identity too as a user group. And it's caused, I think, some success and resonates with people. So there's nothing I would have changed. No bit of information I wouldn't
yeah.
have shared, um, to to make it into what it is today.
Yeah.
And
But
I I stick to those goals, uh, when I work with the planning for the sessions ahead for this community, for this user group, and the stigma, and help people find their courage
mhm,
and respect and mindfulness.
yeah. Okay. Well, that's great. And I certainly love how, again, it's got like a Salesforce spin on it. And it's awesome to know that the Salesforce team are so behind you and Gilda. And I mean, she just has amazing shoes whenever I see her. That's that's all I want to say about that, I think.
I like when she wears the leather pants. I'm like, you go, girl.
Yeah, she's out there, you know? Yeah. So that's great. And it's really good to have somebody like Salesforce, like the community team on your side because they can make things happen. And all of a sudden, you're running a user group, connecting with people and helping people around the world. So I think
It
it's a
was
helpful. Mm,
I got a tweet that it was at Kosovo Dreamin', that they were talking about the group and its resources. And I was like, oh my gosh, we made it to Kosovo. From Louisville, Kentucky, we made it to Kosovo. And I've heard it come up out in the UK as well. And it's just
yeah.
it blows my mind. But yeah, Salesforce could have easily said no, or say, what is this one
Mm,
person? It's just one person. Like, they I am forever thankful for them being open, to hear me out and do something, you know.
mm.
So it's priceless.
Yeah, and it proves it just takes one person to speak up, to use their voice, to make a difference, right? And to start spreading that kind of those ripples, right, throughout the community.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, kind of moving on a little bit, but if there's anything you'd like to change or make people more aware of on the broad topic of mental health and mental illness, is there kind of a misconception that people have around this area? Is there anything that people kind of think, oh, okay, it's this because of the subject matter type thing? Is there anything you'd like to kind of clarify for our audience or kind of debust a myth about?
Oh man, that is a loaded question, and I
Yeah.
about this for more than we got time for.
Mm,
There's so many angles that you can look, at that question from.
yeah.
You know, if I want to debunk anything, I said this in the admin keynote when, they highlighted the group. I said, if you're an awesome admin out there with bipolar disorder, you can do this job. You can do it too, because I'm doing this job. You can do this job. And I told everybody there's nothing to stigmatize. Um, we just have to learn. We have to educate ourselves on how to live with it, how to work with it, how to not be afraid of it, how not to be afraid of others. I can go on for all the things. Um, the stigma is the fear from both
Mm,
sides. People who don't have it, people who do have it, people who have loved ones in their lives that have it. How do I handle it? It's fear of the unknown. And that's
mhm.
why the education is so important. And that's why the representation is so important, because you can show I can do this job. I
Yeah.
may have bipolar disorder and I do have big feelings and it's a struggle sometimes, but I can still be a really good admin.
Mm,
And it's that's why it's so important to have conversations, is so that those truths come out. but also so that solutions come out. So we can bridge the gap between management and the folks that report to them. But then you
Mhm.
also have to consider management might be struggling with
Yeah.
this. It's not just one way. So I think with those conversations, we can end the stigma, we can get educated, we don't have to fear the unknown, and we can work with it from all sides, whether you have it or you don't. Or if you're just going through a hard time, you know.
Yeah. I think that's really important and definitely resonate with like sometimes it's difficult, right? Because sometimes the fear, the anxieties, the stress almost attack you in different ways. But it's important to ultimately, yeah, not being taken over by the fear. Because sometimes it can feel really big, right? It can consume you. It can become, and I've certainly experienced this myself, like it can just become everything, right? And everything is the fear, and suddenly you're doing nothing and you're withdrawing from everything, and it's just
Yeah.
it can be a lot. So I really like hand on heart, like relate to what you just said. And I think it's really valuable and really important to have groups like this to even just start the conversation about it's okay to talk about it and it's okay to not be okay, and those things are like really powerful messages that I wish to an extent like throughout education somebody would have told me those messages because that would have helped me, in the future actually
But
talk about it easier and things. Yeah.
if you want to bring it back full circle, it's what makes us happy, productive workers
Mm,
delivering this awesome Salesforce product.
yeah. See, and it always comes back to Salesforce, doesn't it? Some way or the other.
It's
You know?
relative.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I'm afraid we are having to bring the session to a close, but before we do go, how can people connect with you and your content and the group?
Oh, well, like I said, I'm on LinkedIn and I'm on Twitter with a Twitter handle that has a typo that has haunted me since the birth of my Twitter. So on my Facebook, I write my posts captain's logs. All
Right.
my posts are captain's logs. So on Twitter, I went on to make captain's logs, but which as it turns out, it was used, but I accidentally put a typo. It's captain's logs.
Whoops. Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm on Twitter. And then of course you can look me up in the community as well. So I'll be there.
Yeah. And you can also search for the group on the Trailblazer community under Salesforce Mental Health and Illness, right?
Yes, absolutely. 100%. Almost forgot about that. The most important part.
Yeah. It's fine. I'll put the links in the description so people can follow
Oh,
those.
please.
So yeah, that's great. So thanks again for your time today, and it's been great to have this chat.
Thank you so much for having me and letting me talk about all the things I love to talk about.
Thanks again. Thanks for tuning in to Be More with Tom Bassett. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave any feedback in the comments.